Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. And some crazy stuff just happened. Specifically, the new banned and restricted announcement announced on March 6th. There are no changes to any format besides Legacy. And in Legacy, two cards are banned. White Plume Adventurer and Expressive Iteration. Holy moly. So I wanted to read to you what Wizards said about this banning, and then I want to give you my thoughts, and then we'll talk about other formats just for a little bit. Since the last update, the Legacy metagame has evolved such that two major archetypes combine to make up a large portion of the field. These are the perennially popular Izzet Delver and the recently enabled Mono-White Initiative. With their combined presence approaching 30% of the field in some circles of competitive play, we're choosing to ban one card from each deck to lower their respective win rates and metagame shares. Izzet Delver has been popular for quite some time in Legacy, and has picked up some noticeable recent additions, including Dragon's Rage Channeler, Murktide Regent, and Expressive Iteration. While we acknowledge and agree with many Legacy players who enjoy the play patterns of Izzet Delver and similar archetypes, our data indicates a need to take the win rate and popularity of the deck down a notch to allow for more metagame diversity and innovation. Our choice is to ban Expressive Iteration, as the card quality and quantity it provides allows Izzet Delver to easily adapt to stay on top of any changes in the metagame. In addition to removing a generally strong card, our hope is that by removing Expressive Iteration, we reinforce Izzet Delver's historical strengths, efficient one-for-one exchanges, and weaknesses, lack of sources of card quantity, in a way that leaves the deck more vulnerable in the metagame. Since the release of Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate, the initiative mechanic has had a large impact on the Legacy format and continues to rise in popularity. The current second most popular deck uses fast mana to power out an initiative creature, gaining an early advantage that's difficult to recover from. To reduce the consistency and speed of this gameplay pattern, we're choosing to ban the efficient 3-mana initiative creature, White Plume Adventurer. According to our data, these two decks are holding each other in check, as well as stymieing additional metagame movement. Therefore, we're choosing to impact both decks together. We'll continue to monitor if the changes are enough to open up the metagame and evaluate further changes if needed going forward. So that's the official response. My personal response is I kind of like these changes. I really felt like when I played Legacy, I have to play one of these two decks, and I really hate that because I like other play patterns in other Legacy decks. Now, what I think is going to happen to Legacy is this is going to kill Initiative. I don't think Initiative is playable without White Plume Adventure. I don't think you can play the 5/3 red creature and the 4-mana white creature without White Plume Adventure. I just don't think it's possible and efficiently win games with Legacy. However, there are some more Initiative creatures being released on Magic Online and Treasure Chests really soon, specifically a 4-mana black one and a 4-mana green one. And it's possible that an Initiative deck will still exist, but almost definitely not Mono-White. Or if Mono-White continues to exist, it might move towards the Death and Taxes route while playing Seasoned Dungeoneer as like an extra oomph. As far as Delver goes, Delver is not dead. Expressive Iteration is probably one of the worst cards in the deck anyway, in my opinion. And removing Expressive Iteration, they'll just, I think they're absolutely right with the idea that it'll mean they'll move closer to efficient one-for-one exchanges and be able to play just like other good cards in the Delver deck. I'm not worried about Delver whatsoever. It'll remain the best deck and remain the most popular deck. But by slightly reducing Delver's power and killing Initiative, it does open up the metagame, and I'm really excited about this. It'll likely still be incorrect to not play Delver, but at least, it's not just wrong. That seems a little oxymoronic. I think you know what I mean. As far as other formats, there are no changes, so I wanted to talk about each one individually as well. In Standard, it says, when we last updated the Standard ban list, the Meat Hook Massacre was banned in order to reduce the power level of black-based decks. Since that time and release of the Brothers' War, the Standard metagame has proven healthy and diverse. While black-red mid-range decks are still popular, we're also seeing success in legendary-heavy Esper decks, Azorius Soldiers, and various monocolor decks, among others. Most importantly, we're hearing from many players that the Standard metagame is in a fun spot, and we're happy moving forward with no changes at this time. And I agree to some level, right? When the Meat Hook Massacre was banned, it was black-red or bust, and it was just black-red, grindy mid-range, face drain out of eye sockets, mid-range long games. Now there's some choice. I agree the Esper decks are right at par with the other decks. I mean, Grixis mid-range is the decided upon kind of best deck, but it's not just incorrect to play another deck. And that's kind of where you're going to be at. There's always going to be a best deck. But as long as other decks can compete and the best deck isn't so far best that other decks are unplayable, then we're in a good spot, and that's where Standard definitely is. In Pioneer, it says the recent Pro Tour Phyrexia and Philadelphia showcased excellent diversity in deck building and gameplay in the Pioneer format. Among the popular decks were Rakdos Midrange, Mono Green Devotion, Gruul Vehicles, Lotus Field Combo, Izzet Creativity, and more. Almost 20% of the field chose unique archetypes that didn't fall into the most popular categories, which indicates a good amount of space for innovation and format growth. With the spotlight having recently turned to the Pioneer format, we expect to see continued evolution of the metagame as time goes on, but for now, things are in a good place. And I 100% agree. Going into the Pro Tour, we were kind of expecting maybe some mono-white aggro, but mostly red-black mid-range and mono-green devotion. And then the finals were two decks that I would have argued are tier 3 going into that Pro Tour. The finals were Creativity and the Auras deck. And that's incredible to me. That really shows me that there's so much room for deck building in Pioneer, and that people often just like let themselves go with the flow of the decks that content creators think they're good or they see winning the early tournaments, and that's what they play. And then when decks become popular, those decks of course have more shots at making top 8 and might not necessarily be the best decks, as we saw at the Pro Tour. And I think as that exploration is encouraged in Pioneer, Pioneer's going to get more diverse and more awesome, and no changes is a good idea. In Modern, it says, as with the last update, Modern continues to be in a pretty healthy spot with plenty of diverse, viable archetypes and relatively flat spread among the top decks. Metagame shares. Izzet Murktide is currently the most popular archetype in competitive play, but not by a large margin, and the deck isn't showing a concerning win rate. As of now, things are looking good, but as always, we'll keep our eyes on the Modern metagame as more high-level competitive play unfolds in the future. And I totally agree. I did a Modern metagame analysis of winning decks in the past week, which is a video earlier on the channel. You should definitely check that out if you haven't yet. But over 25% of decks didn't have enough copies. Again, remember, this is among winning decks, to be represented in the pie chart I showed. And that's like really, really incredible. And the most popular deck, Murktide, was only like 11%, if I remember properly. And if the most popular deck is 11%, second most popular was like 8 or 9, you know, and then we had a bunch of decks floating around 5 or 6%. Like, that is a super healthy format. And when you look at top 8s, the top 8s are always very diverse, often with like rogue decks in top 8. And that is an awesome, awesome metagame. And in Vintage, it says Mono White Initiative is also making a mark in Vintage, but our data shows this is an additive to the usual metagame pillars rather than a win rate outlier. With all the powerful strategies available in Vintage, a mostly monocolor creature-based deck represents a novel addition to the competitive metagame, and we're eager to see how things play out. Since last time, we've also seen Paradoxal Outcome and Hollowvine decks coming down in little popularity, which are generally good movements in the metagame. The Vintage metagame can tend to evolve at a slower rate due to sparser opportunities for competitive play. So we'll be watchful as things unfold, but we're hearing mostly positive things from Vintage fans, so we have no changes at this time. And I agree. Like, if you play in a Vintage challenge or a Vintage league or anything at all, you do play against Initiative once in a while, but it's not nearly as dominant as in Legacy. And you play against other decks just as much. If anything, you play against Tinker decks way more. You know, if any deck we want to look at is Tinker, and that's not the case. I don't like that. That is my analysis on the banned and restricted announcement in each format. What a giant change in Legacy. I'm so excited to see Legacy unfold. I'm excited to see a slightly weaker Delver, and I'm excited for the Initiative threat to be gone. That deck was really miserable to play against, and frankly, kind of miserable to play. I played it quite a bit. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.